biostatistics. In the last class, we have covered what is a sample. So in brief, we will be seeing the biostatistics as it is very important. This chapter is very much important. Uh, you have few theory points and again few. Okay. There are few theory questions in it and few viva questions and again few practical questions which we have discussed, that is mean, median, square, how to calculate. We have the statistics exercises, around 10 exercises which I have explained to you, and right now it will be asked in theory. And coming to other point, that is need point of view, also you have many important questions from this chapter. More than theory and practical point of view, it is very important and in depth you need to learn about this chapter for your need PG, because there would be many in-depth questions and this is a very important chapter and very complicated and it's not so easy to understand. So we'll best just on brief we'll be seeing what would be the theory point of view, what are the important questions to be covered. So coming to the chapter statistics, what do you mean by statistics? It is defined as a field of study concerned with techniques or methods of collection of data, classification, summarizing, interpretation, drawing inferences, testing of hypotheses, and making recommendations, etc. Statistics is nothing but science of figures. So we will be seeing many figures as it is cricketing season, IPL season. You would be seeing many graphs in the IPL or track record of many of the IPL players or previous matches or whatever it is. So everything is nothing but statistics. It is nothing but the figures. So it is all figures, summarizing the figures, data, and drawing inferences. That's how they will be seeing what is the chances of winning by one team or the other thing. And the same thing applies to medicine also. When we apply the statistics to medicine and allied subject, we call it as biostatistics. It's nothing but it is a term used when tools of statistics are applied to data that is derived from biological sciences such as medicine. So any biological sciences, we will be seeing efficacy of drugs, or we will be seeing right now the vaccine, or what is the death rate, mortality rate, morbidity rate, all these things which we will be seeing, or who is the high risk group. As it is a COVID era, we'll be seeing what is the efficacy of vaccine, what is the high risk group, death rate in whom, most commonly seen in which people. All these are nothing but biostatistics. So again, coming to the sources of medical statistics, there are three main sources. That is experiments which are done in the hospital or community or any other settings. Surveys, there are many kind of surveys which are being done, and records. Hospital records are one of the important source of medical statistics. So we will be rushing a bit fast because we need to cover lot of topics. So try to stay in. Okay, statistical data. Again, this is not here in your textbook. Most of the things I will be discussing in textbook, except few topics like these things. So broadly, a data is classified into qualitative data, that is discrete, and quantitative data. So there is a difference between qualitative and that is quality. We can just only count, and quantitative. Quantitative is nothing but which we can measure. That is height, weight, etc. So coming in depth, qualitative. In such data, there is no notion of magnitude or size of the characters. That is, it cannot be measured. Only the frequency. There is only one variable, that is frequency. You can only count. They are classified by counting the individuals having the same characteristics. So, for suppose number of males, number of females, okay, number of people in the age group of 10 to 20. So that is nothing but you will be counting. You can't weigh or you can't measure them. That is only frequency can be known. Such data is called as qualitative data, quality. The data is discrete in nature, such as number of deaths in a year, different years, population of different towns, and so on. These are nothing but quality. This is nothing but qualitative data. So qualitative data can be expressed as ratio, proportion, and percentages. So we will be dealing with each and everything. So what is ratio, proportion, and percentage? We have discussed in your practical statistics point of view. So next thing is quantitative or continuous data. In this, there are two variables, that is magnitude and frequency. You can measure and also you can see the frequency, that is number of people having such a characteristics. The quantitative data obtained from the characteristics variable are also called as continuous data. As such, individuals have one measurement from continuous spectrum or range. For example, body temperature, height, weight, etc. So it can be measured in whole numbers or in fractions. For suppose if you see weight. It can be 50.1 kgs, 55.2 kgs, so on. The same way it can be height, 180 centimeters or 182.5 centimeters, etc. You can again get in decimals. Decimals can also be taking place. So it can be, it is nothing but which has magnitude and it can be measured. So how do you analyze quantitative data? Quantitative data can be taken calculated as taking mean, range, standard deviation, coefficient of variation, and correlation coefficient. So for standard mean, range, and standard deviation, we have discussed in practical sessions. So data is nothing but discrete number of collections. So how do you present the statistical data? Statistical data must be once collected, must be arranged purposefully in order to bring out the important points clear and strikingly. Therefore, the manner in which statistical data is presented is of utmost importance. Various methods of presenting data, that is, it can be presented as tables, charts, diagrams, graphs, pictures, and special curves. So all these things, why we are doing, not only with medicine, you see it in everything daily. You will be, if you are watching news bulletins, they would be showing all bar charts or any other graphs or comparison charts. Or if you are watching cricket nowadays, so again they will be showing what are the previous match and what are the runs done in a previous match, or what are the graph, how is it going. So coming to each and everything, tabulation. Tabulation is nothing but forming a table. Tables are devices for presenting data simply from masses of data. First step before the data is used for analysis. It is the first step before the data is used for analysis and interpretation. Tables can be simple or complex. So whenever you take a data, you collect the number. It would be very large, and you need to simplify. Table is nothing but we are simplifying the large number of data which we are collected into different groups. So there are few principles in designing a tables which you can be observing when you are reading any textbook or any thesis or any project work. So what are the general principles in designing tables? That is, the table should be, each and every table should be numbered. Example, table 1, table 2, and figures should be numbered separately. Figure 1, figure 2 you will be seeing in your textbook. So table should be numbered. A title must be given to a table. The headings of the columns or rows should be clear and concise. The data must be presented according to the size or importance. No table should be too large, and most people find a vertical arrangement better than a horizontal arrangement. So vertical arrangement 1, 2, 3, one below points, one below the other is vertical arrangement. So, it is very good rather than arranging from horizontally, that is from left to right. Footnotes may be given whenever it is necessary. So, for example, this is to recollect, which is given in your textbook. That is table 3 Apgar score. So again, you are dividing from top to horizontally, from top to bottom. That is science, heart rate, respiratory rate, muscle tone, reflex response, and color, and in the bottom total score. And if there is anything, you can give again footnotes. You can be given. So this is an example. Again, simple tables which are given in your textbook. That is table 1, population of some states in India. That is after counting each and every person. This is as per 2011 statistics. States, again you will be giving headings, that is Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, UP, etc. And again, table 2 is nothing but population in India as per years 99, 1901, 21, 81, and so on. So footnote is nothing but source. Here you can see source Census of India 2011. There is nothing but food source. These are the simple tables. So next thing is frequency distribution tables. In a frequency distribution table, the data is first split up into convenient groups called as class intervals and the number of items frequency which occur in each group. So maximum we can take 20 number of groups and minimum 5 groups. Class intervals should be equal. So what are these things? For example, if you are taking a class, in a classroom we see different height, we measure the height of different people, or for suppose weight of different people. So class interval is nothing but interval between two weights. For suppose we are taking from 50 kgs. 51 to 55 kgs would be one class interval, 56 to 60, 61 to 65, 66 to 75, 70 would be the convenient groups, that would be class intervals, and number of people falling, that is falling in each group would be frequency. So minimum group, there should be 5 groups. So what are the merits? It shows at a glance how many individual observations are in a group. As we discussed, in a group, for suppose we are saying weight group. So which group has high number of people? Like 60 to 65, number of people would be more. So we can get an inference at a glance. That is maximum number of people are in which group, and where the main concentration lies. It also shows the range and the shape of distribution. For example, we are seeing right now COVID-19. COVID-19 infection, who are the deaths most commonly seen in which age group? So again, age group might be divided into 1 to 10, 11 to 20, and so on. If you see, most number of age groups, death is seen in more than 60 years of age group with comorbidities. So it is at a glance you can know which age group, which class interval of age people are being affected more. So for example, we will be seeing the following figures or ages of patient admitted to a hospital with poliomyelitis. Construct a frequency distribution table. So whenever you collect the data, it will be like very discrete. As you see the top, we'll be only seeing the age groups of number of people, age for 18 and so on. So it will be, if we see there is the basic data which we see, it would be very haphazard and you can't analyze anything. So when we are considering data, you can frequency distribution can be arranged first. Make groups, that is 0 4 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, 15 to 19, and 20 to 24. So on. So first make the first see the range, like what is the minimum age group and what is the maximum age group, and depending on that you can see class interval and how many number of class intervals to the people fall into. So suppose 0 to 4 number of people will be more. So poliomyelitis is affecting more number of people in the age group of 0 to 4. That is 35 people. So in simply it can be presented as age distribution of poliomyelitis. Maximum number of people are seen in the age group of 0 to 4 years. So again, one more inference you can do is you can take percentages also, 35. So 35, 18, what is the percentage, what is the subsequent percent, and you can again samely describe the thing in percentages. So tables is done. So next would be charts and diagrams. Charts and these are the methods of presenting simple statistical data. It has a powerful impact on the imagination of people. It is a popular media of expressing statistical data. Might it be TV channels or newspapers, anything, they would be giving all sorts of graphs, bar diagrams, pie charts, etc. Diagrams are better retained in memory than statistical tables. See, at a glance, if you see a statistical table, you can't remember anything. But for suppose if you are seeing a graph, one graph is having a table bar higher than all others. So it would be most commonly preferred. Lot of details of original data might be lost in charts or diagrams, but it will be having a memory. So what are different types of, so coming to again different drawings, quantitative data, most common drawings are used is bar diagrams, pie or sectoral diagram, pictogram or picture diagram, map diagram or spot map. So qualitative data is nothing but which can't be measured, only frequency seen. So we depending on the frequency we can do bar diagram, pie diagram, pictogram, and map diagram, which we will be seeing in each one of the things. So and again in quantitative data, that is which can be measured, height, weight, etc. Or the graphs which will be given on histogram, frequency polygon, frequency curve, line chart or graph, cumulative frequency diagram, and scatter or dot diagram. So again, coming to these two slides, this is important for NEET point of view. They might ask a direct question. How can what are the various quantitative data which converted into? How can a quantitative data measured, or how can it will be presented? Qualitative data can be presented. So this can be a good NEET multiple choice question. So coming to each and everything, bar charts. Bar charts are merely a way of presenting a set of numbers. The length of the bar, which is proportional to the magnitude to be presented, and it is easy to prepare. Values can be compared visually. So coming to types of bar charts, again there are three types: simple bar charts, multiple bar charts, and component bar charts. So we will be seeing it as simple bar charts, only one frequency is same. Component bar charts, there are 2 or 3 different groups can be compared at a time. So for suppose in the second thing, you can see we will be discussing and staggered bar charts or multiple bar charts. Simple bar charts, nothing but bars are maybe bars can be vertical or horizontal. It can be anything. Bars are usually separated by appropriate spaces. Multiple bar charts, two or more bars can be grouped together for suppose male and female in the same age group. We are seeing age groups 0 to 4 male and female, 5 to 6, 5 to 9 male and female. If you are seeing comparing between different age groups, we can and separate characters in the different age groups. We can use multiple bar charts and component bar charts. Nothing but bars are divided into two or more parts. Each part representing a certain item and proportion of the magnitude of that particular item. For suppose if you are seeing in your right now in your IPL scores, so if you are seeing scores of two players, that is what is the partnership of two players? There would be it is nothing but component bar chart. The first would be the higher player of one, player one, and player two. Together there would be a single bar and divided by the colors. So different color depicts different scores of different person. That is simple. That is nothing but component bar chart. So these all things you have been seeing in your general life, that is day-to-day life, especially in your cricket or in your newspapers. But we don't know the exact names. These are the exact names: simple bar charts, multiple bar charts, and component bar charts. Again. So coming to other thing, pie diagram or sectoral diagram. Pie, as the name you can see, pie is nothing but a part of the circle. Okay. In this, instead of comparing the level length of the bar, the areas of the segment or circle are compared. Areas of each segment depend on an angle. So again, all these things which I am discussing right now, you can see in your cricket match, especially in your IPL, which is going on right now. They will be showing the scores on a field, or that is especially a player score in different pitches, various angles, how much score that he has done in each various fields. So this is nothing but again pie chart. Area of each segment depends on an angle. Size of each angle can be calculated by multiplying the class percentage with 3.6, or that is 360 into 360 by 100. Okay. Pictogram or picture diagram, these are popular methods of presenting data to the man in the streets, as to those who cannot understand the orthodox charts. Where fractions of the picture can be used to represent numbers smaller than the values of the whole symbol. So these are the different types of pictogram in HIV/AIDS in developing countries and developing countries, which is increasing, which is decreasing. Map diagram of spot maps. These maps are prepared to show the geographical distribution of frequencies of characteristics. If the map shows clustering of cases, it may suggest a common source of infection or common risk factors shared by all the cases. The areas are shaded with different colors. So this is a color map of cholera in 1870 to 1822. The darker is number of cases. In 1817, it is as per years. In 1817, we have concentration in India and adjacent countries, and coming to 1822, it is seen in European Mediterranean countries. So it's nothing but it can be shown for frequency or shown by year. This is again the spot map. It can be seen the clustering of cases can be seen can be studied in a map of the specified area of the city or a community, where we can locate the number of cases. In this case, we are distributing the cases. Now, first case, second case, where they are seen. So coming to next thing, that is quantitative data. Quantitative data can be shown by pictogram of it is nothing but histogram. Histogram is nothing but pictorial diagram of frequency distributions. It consists of series of blocks. Class intervals are given along the horizontal axis, frequency along the vertical axis. In histograms, bars, there is no spacing between bars. It will be bars are continuously placed one after the other. Frequency in a polygon is nothing but it is obtained by joining the midpoints of the histogram blocks. Okay, so go through the textbook for all the diagrams. All the diagrams are given very well in the diagrams. So, these diagrams which I have uploaded have not been saved. So just go through the textbook again. So frequency polygon, line diagram is to show the trend of events with passage of time. We use line diagram. Okay, line diagram again you can see in cricket match comparing between two teams with overs and runs with each team. So statistical averages, yes, I'll not go in depth because this was discussed, and I hope you all remember these things. Average implies a value in the distribution around which overall values are distributed. It is a picture of central value. There are different types of calculation of statistical average. There is mean, median, and mode. So mean is most commonly used. I think it is the average, that is total number, sum of total number of observations by number of observations. Median is nothing but central value. If it is an even number of values, then you take average of middle two values. So mode is nothing but when arranged in an ascending order or descending order. Sorry, median would be first you need to arrange data in ascending order or descending order. The more the central value would be the median. If it is an even number, average of the middle two values would be taken as considered as median, and mode is nothing but most commonly repeated number. So each and everything has advantages or disadvantages. You need to go through these things again. We have discussed. So go through your textbook. Arithmetic mean can be mainly deviated by large numbers when there is single large number. Again, coming to measures of dispersion, these are very important. First, suppose if we are seeing the blood pressure value vary from person to person. So, how do we know what is normal blood pressure? How was it calculated? So, to calculate measures to calculate normal blood pressure, first it was evaluated, that is blood pressure of all the most of the individuals or large number of population is calculated, and then of all the measurements, the central value, that is most commonly seen value, is taken as normal. So it is nothing but there are various measures of dispersion or variation. There is range, mean or average deviation, and standard deviation. These also we discussed in the practical classes. Range is nothing but the simplest measure of dispersion. Difference between it can be calculated by difference between the highest and the lowest figures in a given sample, or simply expressed from low number to the high number. For example, the following record of diastolic blood pressure of 10 individuals. You can take the range is expressed as 69 to 96, that is lower number to higher number, or by the actual difference, that is 96 minus 69, that is 27. Either ways we can be expressing the range, but most commonly we express this as from lower number to the higher number. So in this case it is 69 to 96. So mean deviation, what is mean deviation? It is the average of the deviation of the arithmetic mean. It is given by the formula sigma x minus x bar by n. N is nothing but number of observation. X is a given variable and x bar is nothing but mean. So standard deviation, it is most frequently used measure of deviation. It is also called as root mean square deviation. The standard deviation is calculated by the basic formula whole root of sigma x minus x bar whole square by n. So there are problems for you in your statistical exercises on this formula. There are two exercises on this. So you need to remember that is sigma x minus x bar whole square. Square is missing. Whole square root of sigma x minus x bar whole square by n. And when sample size is less than that, it will be doing n minus 1 for correction. So it is root mean square deviation. Standard deviation. Remember the standard deviation or standard error. Because something was mean standard deviation between. So in the last expression, you were asked normal distribution on normal curve. So we'll be discussing this in detail right now. And it was discussed for you in your previous practical also. That's the reason you got the question. So if you have attempted it, you have gained good marks because we have not dealt with this in your theory. So coming to normal distribution or normal curve. Or suppose we are taking a large number of population, collecting a large number of data. So, example, if you collect the hemoglobin values of a very large number of people, make frequency distribution with narrow classes available. Medical okay, the curve depend upon the mean of the standard deviation. So one thing, so there are very few important terms which you need to remember, that is smooth symmetrical curve, which is bell-shaped curve. Shape of the curve will depend upon the mean and standard deviation. Whenever you are taking a large number of population, you will get a standard, you will get a bell-shaped smooth curve. So these are the important points. The area between one standard deviation on either side of the mean will be approximately 68. You can see the image. This is nothing but a figure of a normal curve. It is a smooth bell-shaped curve. The central value, that is midpoint, is nothing but mean on either side of the mean. That is plus or minus 1 sigma, which is given x bar plus 1 sigma and x bar minus 1 sigma. That is the area of the graph covering the standard deviation. 1 sigma is nothing but 68%. It covers around the population of 68%. Okay. And second, from middle, next one, that is plus or minus 2 standard deviations of 2 sigma is nothing but it covers a population of 95%, and mean plus or minus 3 standard deviation it covers a population of 99%. So this is again a neat point of view and a biophysical direction. Mean plus or minus 2 standard deviation which covers 95% is very important. Okay. So on either, coming again, I am repeating the area between one standard deviation on either side of the mean. On either side of the mean will be including approximately 68%, and on the two sides of the mean to a plus or minus 95%, and mean plus or minus 6 standard deviation to 99%. These limits on either side of the mean are called confidence limits. So we come across this confidence limits most often. So most commonly we use plus or minus 2 standard deviation as confidence limit. And when we are calculating whether it falls between mean plus or minus 2 standard deviations, we take it as normal. So what is a standard normal curve? Standard normal curve is a curve which is smooth, bell-shaped, perfectly symmetrical curve. So if you can see on either side, if you are taking a midpoint, that is the center point, that is mean, on either side it is symmetrical. So perfectly symmetrical curve based on an infinitely large number of observations. So it must be infinitely large number of observations. Other important function, the total area under the curve is 1, the mean is 0, and the standard deviation is 1. Okay, mean is 0 and standard deviation is 1. The mean, median, and mode all coincide at the same point. So it is, as it is symmetrical, it is mean, median, and mode coincide at the same point. And the relative deviate or standard normal deviate is denoted by z, that is distance of value x from the mean of the curve in units of standard deviations. So relative deviate or standard deviate, which we do. Again there is something called as skewing of the curve. Standard normal curve, it can be positively this standard normal curve. Sometimes there is skewing or there would be changing of the curve, which we will discuss in the graphs I will be showing you in the next class, because right now I didn't download those things. Skewing is nothing but changing of the shape. It is asymmetrical curve. Right side skewing and left side skewing are the two items. Try to remember in normal curve it is mean is equal to median is equal to mode. In the right side skewed graph it is mean greater than median greater than mode, and in left side skewedness you can see mean less than median less than mode. And this part is given, I hope, in the screening. I think it is there in screening chapter. I hope, I'm sure, I'm not very sure, but I think positive skewing and negative skewing, left side skewing and right side skewing, it are mentioned in the chapter of sampling. Next chapter, fourth chapter. So try to remember. Again, that is very, very important. Neat question. Skewedness of a curve. So there is other most important thing is test of significance. When you hear the word significance, see, whenever we are doing any experimental data or study, we need to know whether it is significant or not. In your future, all of you or most of you would be doing your post graduation. In your post graduation, you need to do either your thesis work or your paper presentation. In your presentation, you need to do, whenever you are collecting a data, you need to see whether it is correlating. That is for suppose we have seen you have studied epidemiology, you would be seeing cause of smoking and lung cancer. We would be seeing whether smoking is due to lung cancer or not. We would be saying a word that significant. Significance is nothing but is it directly associated or not. So in your future, no, might not be right now, but in your future you would be hearing the word again and again. What is significance? What is when you call a significant association between two things and nothing but as p-value. P-value less than 0.05 or 1 in 20. So less than 0.05 is called as significant. P less than 0.05 is very important to remember. So what is the need? For example, drug efficacy is of considerable importance, not in just matters of health, but also in monetary values. But health, whenever you are saying drug efficacy of two drugs, which must be compared, we consider ideally similar drugs to have same efficacy, but in practice, we may get a difference of zero in the trial. So whenever we are comparing two drugs, for pantoprazole or omeprazole, we want to see which is more effective in curing a gastro gastro acute G or a gastroesophageal reflux. So we will be studying which is more efficacious, which is significant changes are there or not. So different falls when the difference of falls under 1 to 5%, it is accepted and it is taken as less than 5%. It is taken considered as significant. So researchers involve statistical significance testing whenever they have random sample. When they have a random sample from a population or sample, they believe approximates a random representative sample. Statistical significance testing acquires subjective judgment in setting a predetermined acceptable probability of making an inference error. So we have discussed sampling. Yes, we are seeing just a definition. Sampling is nothing but a small proportion of people are considered to represent a large selection of population. We called it a sample. In a sampling frame is a listing of the members of the universe from whose the samples is to be drawn. Various sampling methods are simple random sample, systemic random sample, and stratified random sample. Again, errors in sampling. Sampling errors or repeated sampling from the same universe leads to different results. Variation of reading from one sample to the other is called sampling error or sample error. So the factor influencing the sampling error or sample size of the sample or natural variability of individual readings. So standard error estimate or the standard deviation of the difference between is measured by the standard error is measured by standard deviation by square root of a total number of observations. So again, type 1 error and type 2 error, again you will be seeing many need multiple choice questions regarding these things. Type 1 error is nothing but rejecting a null hypothesis when it is true. So rejecting a null hypothesis when it is true is called type 1 error, and type 2 error is where we may decline the risk and accept the null hypothesis when it is in fact false. This is type 2 error. So test of significance, there are various tests of significance which we conduct. That is standard error of the mean, standard error of proportion, standard error of difference between two means, and standard error of difference between two proportions. So what is standard error of mean? So as we discussed earlier, mean is calculated for quantitative data, that is which can be measured. That is height, weight, temperature. For this you can calculate mean, and proportion which can't be measured. That is number of people having diabetes or number of people having hypertension. You can't measure. So that is nothing but standard error of proportion. Again, for quantitative data we measure mean standard error of mean, and for qualitative data we measure standard error of proportion. So what are these two things? So coming to each and everything, what standard error of mean? Standard error of mean is nothing but simply a standard error. We take only one sample from the universe and calculate. We take a sample, only one sample from the universe and calculate mean and standard deviation. We calculate the standard error of the mean and set up confidence limits. So as we discussed, confidence limits will be set up at mean plus or minus 2 standard errors, within which the mean of the population is likely to lie. For example, if we are taking 25 males aged 20 to 40 years whose mean temperature was 98.14 degrees Fahrenheit with a standard deviation of 0.6. What can you say of the true mean of the universe from which the sample is drawn? Was it correct or not? So we need to compare. So you first you will be standard error of mean, that is standard deviation by square root of n, which should be 0.12. So set up confidence levels. Confidence level is nothing but mean plus or minus 2 standard deviations. You will be getting the range, that is it must be falling between 97.9 to 98.38. So the chances will be only 1 in 2. When we are taking 95, 2 standard errors or 2 standard deviations, that is nothing but 95% of the sample would be normal. So the chances, that is, chances will be only 1 in 20 that the population would be, population mean would be outside the limits. So standard error of proportion in the same way when you are counting the numbers, that is the proportional example. The proportion of males in a village of a certain village was 52%. So of the whole population, 52% were males. When we took a random sample to calculate random sample of only 100 people, for suppose the village has 1000 population and of this 52% were male, and a random sample of 100 people were taken, and the proportion of male were found to be only 40. So what conclusion could be drawn from this sample? So was it a correct sample or wrong? So to justify your guess. So what possible range of males could be expected with a sample of 100 within 95% of confidence levels? So standard error of proportion is nothing but it is calculated by the formula whole square root of PQ by N. If it is whole square root of PQ by N, P is nothing but proportions of male and Q is proportion of females. Proportion is nothing but we calculate it for 100. When 52%, 52 is male, automatically 45, 48 would be female. That is 100 minus 52. So PQ by N is nothing but sample size. So standard error of proportion is nothing but whole square root of 52 into 48 by 100. It is 5. So when we calculate the confidence limits, it is 42 to 62. Since the observed proportion of male was only 40% and well outside the confidence limits. So we consider the difference between the observed and expected value significant and is not likely arising by chance. So again, other discussion we will be going. Don't worry, it's not yet done. So we have seen standard error of mean and standard error of proportions, and we will see okay. So we'll go with another example. For example, serum cholesterol standard error of mean. Again, serum cholesterol levels in 100 men following a normal distribution with a mean of 240 with a mean would be 242 milligram percent. The standard deviation is 45 milligram percent. If we calculate with this mean of the universe from which example was drawn. So standard error of mean is 4.5. So if we calculate the range, mean plus or minus standard D2 standard deviation, that is it is 233 to 251, probability P 0.05. So coming again to confidence limits, standard deviation is outside mu is outside 95% confidence limits, that is normal deviation is Z more than 2 and P is taken, P is less than 0, we take P less than 0.05 and call it as 0. It is significant. Whenever it is outside the 95% confidence limit, we take it as significant. So again, when we are saying two means, standard error of difference between two means, whenever we calculate standard error of difference between two means, it is given by formula whole square root of SD1 square, that is sigma 1 square by M1 plus SD square is sigma 2 square by M2. So often in biological work, investigators are faced with two problems of comparing results between two groups. For example, control group and other would be the experimental group. So these are the examples. A general practitioner wants to compare the mean of mean blood pressures with the mean of the printer's blood pressure with the mean of the farmer's blood pressures. The figures are set as shown in the table. So number of printers are 72 and number of farmers are 48. So mean diastolic blood pressure of printers is 88 and mean diastolic blood pressure of farmers is 79 and standard deviations of printers is 4.5 and 4.2. So we have two different sets of people and we need to compare these three things. Was the difference significant? Was the mean diastolic blood pressure between two groups is significant or not? So standard error of difference between in standard error of difference between two groups is calculated by SD1 square by SD2 SD1 square by n plus SD2 square by n1 n2. So in the same way, if we calculate, it will be 0.81. The actual difference between the mean is 88 minus 79. Actual difference of the mean is 79 minus 88. 88 minus 79, that is 9 mm of H3. So for large samples, we can calculate a 95% confidence intervals for the difference in the mean as 9 plus or minus, that is which is 7.38 to 10.62. And in the same way, standard error of proportion is calculated. Standard error of proportions we have discussed. Standard error. Okay, we will be seeing standard error of difference between two proportions. So suppose the acne drug company develops two new drugs designed to prevent colds. The company states that the drugs are equally effective. Today's claim they choose a simple random sample of 200 men, compared in all respects randomly divided into two groups. So number of exposures for drug A would be 90, and number of exposures for drug B would be 86. Number of cases we have seen in for 22 and 14, attack rate is 22, 24, and 16. So standard error of proportion, the difference between two proportions is calculated by the formula P1 minus P1, 1 minus P1 by N1, P2, 1 minus P2 by N2 plus whole square root. So by calculating by substituting the formula, we get a standard error would be 6.2. Standard error of difference between proportions is 6, whereas the observed difference is 8.2. Observed difference is nothing but difference between these two attacks rate 22, 24.4 minus 16.2, we get 8.2. So the standard error which we standard error of difference between two proportions is calculated is 2, but observed is 8.2. Since the observed difference is less than 2 standard errors or difference, there is 2 standard error would be 2 into 6, 12. There is no strong evidence that there is any difference between the efficacy of two drugs. So it is less than 2 standard deviations. That is 2 into 6, 12. There is no it is not significant. Both the results are equal. So limitation of significant testing. So by this we can see, by calculating this, we can say that there is no difference in efficacy of the two drugs. Only by seeing the attack rate, we can't just conclude that if it is having attack rate of 24% and attack rate of 16%, we can't say which drug is better. Only by calculating the significance, we can say it is if there is any difference or not. In this problem, there is no difference. So it is not significant. What is the limitation of significant testing? Widespread misunderstanding about the information conveyed by p-value will be here in the near future every time. Estimated nature of the significant test, widespread blindness to statistical power. Okay. So those would be the standard error of proportion between two proportions. So last thing we'll be seeing is chi-square test. So I'll be going in brief again. Chi-square test is an important question. It can be asked directly for you for 4 marks or to calculate, or it might be given any ways it can be asked. So go to the textbook once again. So chi-square test is nothing but other test, other way of methods of doing standard error of difference between proportions. And coming to right now with your introduction of computers and other things, chi-square test can be done directly in a uh, Excel or with many other softwares which are available online. So after making observations or experiments in medical problems, next is a stage of interpretation of the results or drawing statistical conclusions. The results of observation or experiments in medical problems like mean or proportion, etc., may vary from sample to sample. So we want to know the significance of difference between work in our work compared to that of the population or other sample is very important. So we express this in terms of probability of its occurrence by chance and is stated by sampling distribution. There are two basic methods for drawing conclusions. That is estimation of population parameter by simple statistic or testing the hypothesis about the population parameter. So we will be seeing with estimation of population parameter, calculate the sample parameter, set up the confidence limits, and so as per the normal distribution, we say that the confidence limits that the sample mean lies within the confidence limits of the so first what we do. So testing of hypothesis statement. The hypothesis is nothing but the statement of belief about the population parameter. So state the research question in terms of statistical hypothesis. Decide on appropriate statistical test. State the level of significance of the statistical test. Statistical hypothesis, null hypothesis. What is null hypothesis? It is a statement claiming that there is no difference between the corresponding statistics of the sample and that of the population. So this is one of the important things. What is null hypothesis is most commonly asked. What is this nullifies the claim that the experimental result is different from or better than the one observed already. So alternate hypothesis. So common test we do is z-test, t-test, or chi-square test. Z-test or z-test or t-test, or to express a difference in terms of standard error for means. We do z-test and t-test for means and chi-square test for proportions. Chi-square test is a non-parametric test. Again, there are something called as parametric test and non-parametric test. Parametric test are for quantitative test and non-parametric test for qualitative test. Qualitative, that is for proportions. This is very chi-square test is very useful in research. So here we are seeing for a treatment and control group, we are seeing treatment and control group and positive and negatives and total. So we will be calculating first observed frequencies and expected frequency, and depending on the observed and expected frequency, we will be calculating chi-square test. So chi-square test again, I will go. This is not good in this PPT. I'll just review the chi-square test in your next class again because it is very important and it is not very good in this PPT. I'll just discuss it again. So coming to expected value, it is no, this is not good. Applications or uses. Chi-square test for impedance association good for. Okay, we'll be ending this thing chapter with this thing. Chi-square test is nothing but again we'll discuss in the next class. It will take around 5 minutes. I don't have exact sites. we'll show you those things in the next class. Okay. If you are having any doubts, just message me or ping me. We'll again discuss those things in the coming classes, because this chapter is again very very important. If you go in your NEET for your NEET examination in depth, there are many questions. For your theory point of view, there are only few questions, but for your NEET point of view, it is very important, and in depth knowledge is required. Okay. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you.